Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. And now we're gonna play a little piece of music written by our dear friend CHRIS WALDEN, and then we're gonna start talking. Go ahead, Dustin. Go ahead and play it. Beautiful, 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 beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
CHRIS WALDEN, thank you so much, man, for doing this.
Well,
thank you. Thank you so much. We are thrilled. We are so happy to have you.
Well, I'm the one who's thrilled and honored for the invitation. Thank you for having me.
It's an honor. It's an honor. We have been doing that for a few months already, and I would like to tell you that you're in a good company.
That's nice to know.
But of course, you deserve to be here, big time among all those great musicians that we have a privilege to have in the past. And I would like to start mention that piece you just heard. It's an original composition by CHRIS, and he recorded here in Los Angeles, no?
Yes.
Okay, CHRIS is a consummate musician. He's an all-around musician. He's amazing. He's a trumpet player. He's a composer, which is, I'm sorry, I should start saying that, composer. He's an amazing composer. He's an orchestrator, arranger, creator, and also a trumpet player, and a consummate musician. Any style, anything. You has been working with so many different artists of different kind of styles of music.
Yeah.
It's an amazing. And we're here today to hear from you firsthand your experience as a composer, as an arranger, as an orchestrator, especially in Los Angeles, where you have been living for how long?
20 years now.
20.
20
Wow.
years, yeah. Almost 21 years, yeah.
Yeah, but you was born where?
I was born in Hamburg, Germany, in the 60s, and sometime in the 60s. and I grew up in Hamburg, and My mother is a musician as well. She's a choir singer, and that's how I got to music very early on, because she's a classical singer, and mostly does like these early Baroque and Renaissance music where she does music with ensembles where they play these old Baroque trombones and Baroque trumpets with the holes and all that stuff. And so that was my first contact with music, like with ancient instruments. And I was playing recorder when I was 4 years old, and I could learn and read music before I could read books when I was 4 years old. And then at the age of 7, I started to learn piano. And then at age 13, I started to learn trumpet. And my interest for jazz started because I think it was sort of a rebellion. I needed music that my mother didn't know anything about it, so she could not tell me how to do it. So jazz was kind of a thing that I owned jazz. My mother had nothing against me doing jazz. She was fine with it.
But not in favor either.
But not in favor either. But the most important thing, she could not tell me how to do it. She didn't know anything about jazz. So I owned jazz for myself. So I think that's what drew me to jazz. And also when I started doing jazz, it was in the mid-70s when disco music was in full swing, and I think jazz was never as unpopular than in the 1970s. I think only then with Wynton and people like that in the 80s, jazz became a little bit more popular. But in the 1970s, I think jazz was almost dead. No one who was cool listened to jazz. So I was one of the only not so cool kids in school that listened to jazz.
And what about your dad?
My dad was not a musician. He just always loved music, but he could not do music himself. So it was my mother who was a musician.
Mother,
yeah.
And then it's in your blood.
That's exactly that was so. That just, so to speak, that was in my blood and how it started. And I, as a trumpet player, I started playing in the local high school big band, and I started working in it as a musician as age of 16, when I would play with like a top 40s band on weddings and stuff like this on the weekend. And I was already making a little bit of money when I was 16 years old as a working musician.
Playing what?
Playing trumpet on weddings and yeah, stuff like this.
Let me ask you a question. I'm sorry, my ignorance, but Hamburg was part of the East or West?
Hamburg was part of West Germany. And
lucky you.
Yeah, no, it sort of
sorry.
was. No, but you're right. I mean, because we had a lot of more opportunities, of course, and than being in East Germany. But having said that, before the wall came down in the mid 80s, when I was like 16, 17 years old, and I was working on weekends as a musician, we would drive a lot to Berlin, to West Berlin, every weekend. But for that, we had to pass through East Germany every weekend. So we had to be we were checked at the border control, but the East.
And you need a visa or something?
No, just a passport. But we were checked very vigilantly by the East German border control. Yeah, and we had to show our instruments. Every time, and they would make life really hard for us, and we had to then drive through East Germany and arrive in West Berlin and play over the weekend. Then on the next,
it was in the middle of the whole thing.
Yeah, and actually, I remember one time I was serving in the West German military, and I was playing a gig in the weekend in West Berlin, and I was not, as member of the German military, was not really supposed to travel through East Germany, but I did it anyway. But the East German border patrol checked me and saw that I was in the West German military, and they had me interrogated for 2 hours by the KGB.
Oh my goodness!
Just
KGB,
because,
Russian?
yes, no, the Russians. They brought in some Russian officers and they interrogated me for 2 hours just because I wanted to go to West Berlin. That was how I got in touch with during the Cold War with the other system. With the other side, yes.
The other side. Yeah. Let me tell you, you mentioned West Berlin. I for years, I swear, man, for years, West Berlin was my favorite city in the world. I love it so much. And I used to play there. I played many times in the club there, they call it Quasimodo.
Yes.
Man,
that was a good club.
I enjoyed so much playing there. But I gotta tell you something. I was once in East Berlin.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, he was like a translator or something, he said to me, let's go to the very tall tower in Alexanderplatz.
Yes.
Do you remember what the name of that? The big tower. It got like a restaurant on
yeah,
top.
like it has the bowl on the top, like this little round thing. There's like a restaurant in the middle. Yeah, the Alexanderplatz. Oh, they call it the Fernsehturm. It's the TV tower, they call it.
Great, okay.
Yeah.
He brought me there. And then when we were there, he said, Arturo, look around. You see this side is so dark and gray and sad. Look to the other side. Oh my goodness, that was
depressing.
Very early 80s or something.
Yeah.
And I come back to home, to Cuba, and I talked to my family. I said, you know what? We are in the wrong side.
That's when you saw.
We are in the wrong side.
Yeah.
I witnessed with my own eyes. Nobody told me. I witnessed. I see it.
And from up there, you could see it. You could see the difference.
Huge difference. And the other thing is, my father was a car mechanic, and then I love cars all my life. I love cars, and in the West, you got a Mercedes, Porsche, Audi, Volkswagen. Opel, all those things.
Yeah.
Man, and in the other side, they got a Trabant. It was a piece of crap.
Cardboard.
Car.
Was made out of cardboard.
And I used a motorcycle engine.
Yeah, two-stroke engine. Smelled like a lawnmower.
Horrible. And the other one was a Trabant.
Yeah.
Trabant and
Wartburg.
Wartburg.
Yeah, those
Man,
two,
that was two pieces of crap little car.
And whenever I would go to East Germany once in a while as well. And when you go to East Berlin, you could smell it in the air from the engine, the two-stroke engines, who smell like a lawnmower.
And I'm going to tell you something, that really put clear in my mind the whole picture, you know. That was so clear that you can see the huge difference, one system to the other. But okay, this is not the case here today.
No, but I was fortunate enough to come up in West Germany. And one specific thing about what got me in touch with big band, with arranging for big bands, was that in the mid-'80s, every major city in West Germany had its fully employed radio big band. So there was a radio big band in Hamburg, there was one in Cologne, one in Berlin, one in Frankfurt.
Oh my goodness.
And they were rehearsing and recording every day. And when I was 19, I became a staff arranger for the Hamburg radio big band. So that's how I got how I got started as being an arranger.
Wow.
But I was still playing trumpet at that time, and I still thought of myself of eventually becoming a big trumpeter, like you are. And then when I was 19 years old, I joined the Bundes Jazz Orchestra, was the federal youth jazz orchestra in Germany. They scouted all over Germany to find the best jazz musicians under the age of 25 in the West. And I was lucky enough to be the fourth trumpet player. And at the first rehearsal week that they did in 1987 or 88, they said, there's one more student here who lives here in Bonn, in this little town. He's only 15, but he's so good. You're supposed to be 16, but he's so good, we could take him on anyway. So they bring in this little kid that at that time he was 15 years old, and he was only up to here for me. He was not even fully grown. And he pulls out his trumpet, and he played, I think the first solo he played, Night in Tunisia, and he played with 15 years old like nothing I've ever heard. And I thought to myself, I'm 19, he's 15, he already plays so much better than I do. I think I'm going to focus on arranging and writing music. And the name of that kid was Till Brunner.
Till Brunner.
And to this day, ever since, we're best friends.
Oh yeah, that Till is a special guy.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. He's one of my favorite jazz trumpet player ever.
Yeah.
I love his playing, man. And he was in that chair. Last month. Last month. He was the last one, no? Tim? He was the last one.
Last month. It was after last month. I see YouTube page for people.
In November. In November. He was our guest in November, Till Brunner.
Yeah.
An amazing guy. Amazing.
And still he plays.
And then you stay in Hamburg until what year?
By then I had moved to Cologne because I went to a music school in Cologne. I studied composition with Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, And I studied big band arranging, and I still played a little bit trumpet, but I...
Excuse me, that Stockhausen is it related to Mark, the trumpet player?
Yes, the father.
The father of him?
Yes, Karl-Heinz Stockhausen was the father.
Wow.
The very famous German composer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But mainly classical, no?
Oh yeah, classical composer. Composer. And to be honest, I didn't really... He was a weird guy. I didn't really learn anything from him. I mostly learned mostly in school I learned about how to write for big band, because we had a big band in the university as well, and that got me started in creating more contacts and getting to know the people. It was a good networking tool. But what I'm trying to say is, what I do know now and what I learned how to write music, I did not really learn at the school, because they didn't provide us with a proper experience to having our pieces heard. Because if you want to learn how to write music, you need to hear what you write. And they just didn't have, they would tell us we should write something, and then the teacher would look at it and say, well, that doesn't sound good. But how do you know if it doesn't sound good if you don't hear it back? So the only way how to learn to write music is you have to write something and you have to hear it back. And then you see, oh, that doesn't sound good. Oh, okay. Because you have to hear it with your own ears what you've written. Just someone telling you that's not good what you wrote, you don't know, well, why isn't that good?
Wow.
So that's my theory. To learn to write, you need to hear what you write.
Before. You have to imagine where you...
No, but also you have to...
sound. How's that going to sound?
And also you have to hear it being played by an orchestra, what you wrote. To hear if what you wrote, if that works or if it doesn't work. And, and in school, they wouldn't give us any time with the orchestra. So the pieces that we wrote in school, we never heard being played by an orchestra. So how can you know if that's good, what you wrote?
And how you learn to solfege? How do you sing the melodies when you're reading?
When I write, I hear it in my head. I hear what I write, the melody in my head, and I write it down.
But beside that, in the way in the school, they teach you...
Oh, in the school? They just sit at the piano, write it down.
No, but for example, in the way we learn solfege, we sing the thing.
Yeah.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, si, do, si, re, mi, do. Do, re, mi, do, fa, mi, re, do, si, do, re, do, mi, re, do, si, do, si, re, do, la, sol. Do, mi, so, fa, mi, re, do, si, re, do, la, sol. We sing the notes, and then just singing the notes, you know exactly how they're going to sound. You know, that helps. You know,
actually, that's a good point. They didn't do that with us. Yeah.
They didn't do it.
No.
Here in America either. Yeah. No, they don't do that.
Yeah.
I really prefer. I think that's an old school. It came from Spain.
Yeah.
Now, when they taught us there, it's an old school. They call Hilarion Eslava. That was a solfege.
Yeah, the solfege.
From and another one from France called solfege or solfege.
Yeah.
It's an old book. Yeah. But we have to really sing every note.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, because if you can sing it, then you can play it as well. Yeah.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
Okay. What came after that?
And then I obviously have to tell the story.
Yeah.
I was in Cologne.
And
I was for 8 years before I came out here. But I remember the first time we both met was when I was still in the youth big band. And I think it was in 88, 89. We played a big party for the German chancellor in his backyard of the residency in Bonn. That was before the wall came down, and Bonn was still the capital. It was before Berlin was the capital.
The capital of West Berlin, or West Germany.
Exactly. And we played it there in Bonn for the chancellor, the big party. And there were various big bands. There was a radio big band, there was another big band, and there was our youth big band. And your band, you played there as well.
In a festival, yeah.
There was like a jazz festival, yeah. And I remember I was playing third trumpet, and I was standing next to the first trumpet player. And
Till was in the band?
And Till was in the band as well. And you had just finished your set on one stage, and we were coming on. We heard you all on your stage, and so we were coming on and playing our set. And suddenly, between me and the first trumpet player, someone was coming on the stage behind us and stood between me and the trumpet player. It was you with your trumpet. And
what a fresh guy!
And you pulled out your trumpet and you played read in the book in the charts of the first trumpet player. But the only difference, you played it up an octave from what the first trumpet was.
That was so stupid.
Yeah. So that was the first.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But that was the first time we ever met.
Man, that's beautiful. And then you stayed in that band.
I stayed in the band.
You moved to the US.
No, I stayed. I had to leave the band when I was 24, but I stayed. I went to music school. I finished my music studies and composing, and then I started writing. Already was writing a lot of big band arrangements for radio big bands, and I got then. That led me to writing arrangements for radio symphony orchestras, and again was my learning on the job. I had never written for an orchestra. They said, well, write for this radio symphony orchestra, and I figured out how to do it just by looking at other scores and studying scores of other composers, and I had to write arrangements for radio symphony orchestras. That led me also to write film music. Then suddenly I was arranging and orchestrating for film music, and then I got my own film composing jobs.
Wow.
And I was writing a lot for some film music, but mostly television music in Germany, until I was 29. And I was already busy working as a film composer, and I was in demand as a film composer in Germany. But by the time I was 29, I discovered that I had already accomplished a lot in a short amount of time in Germany. But I also realized this can't be it. This has to be more. So, by the time it was the mid-90s, and the kind of music that German television, German films needed was very minimalistic music, and music that doesn't show too much emotions, because Germans have a problem with showing emotions anyway. But I wanted to write lush emotional music, and they didn't want that music there. So I thought, well, screw you, I'm going to go somewhere with this kind of lush emotional orchestral music is needed, and that is in Hollywood. So I decided when I was 29 to leave Germany and come to Los Angeles, where I have a chance to learn this kind of music that I want to write, and also have the opportunity eventually to write this kind of music for film and television.
Let me ask you, where and when you learn how to write for full orchestra?
Back in Germany.
In Germany.
I did learn that in Germany, but I was never given really the chance to express all that.
For the full orchestra?
For a full orchestra.
Especially for harp and all those things.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Contrabassoon,
Yeah.
English horn, all those things that I have no idea.
Exactly. Yeah. So I did learn this in Germany, but I could never really use these skills I felt in Germany. Yeah. And also another thing that I kind of bothered me in Germany, there was a segregation between jazz and pop, or jazz and classic. In German minds, there's always, if you do jazz, it has to be pure jazz, and it cannot contain any pop elements, because then the jazz police would, if it's a little funky groove, then the jazz police would say, that's not jazz. And when you do pop music, when you write for pop music, German pop producers, if you sneak in a little bit of jazzy chord in there, pop producers in Germany say, no, that the mass public will not understand.
Too hip.
No, that's too hip, and the mass public will not understand this. This is too jazzy. So there was no crossover between.
It's a formula.
Yeah, so there's no crossover between pop and jazz, and this is always something I admired about America. You have like people like Michael Bublé, and so they're pop artists, but they have jazz influences, and then there are jazz artists like, I don't know, like the Yellow Jackets. They have pop tastes in it, and they kind of combine this all.
And Jerry Hay was all those things, Michael Jackson.
Yes, exactly. But would have like a little jazz touch.
Yeah.
But in Germany, no, you don't do that.
They're purists.
Yeah, they're pure. Either do jazz or you do pop, and that's something I just didn't want anymore.
Let me move a little bit closer to you, because I am off the camera. Yeah, and man, that's amazing. That's a good story. And then you arrive in Hollywood.
And I arrived in Hollywood.
Here we are.
1996.
96.
And I came with my back then girlfriend. We came together. She was also from Germany, a violinist. And we came here together. And shortly after we got here, we got married. So she's now my wife for 20 years. And I have to say, if it wouldn't be for the two of us together, because we had some dire times as well, if it would have been just by myself, I probably would have gone back. So really, it helped us.
It was difficult in the beginning?
It was difficult in the beginning, and it helped us that we had each other. So that
That's important.
To be in a marriage and to support each other was really helpful. So I came here in '96 and I had one telephone number of a TV movie producer. That was the only contact I had.
That was it.
That was the one person I knew. And I hit him up and I called him. Took some, at least it was 2 or 3 times or 4 times to call him until he would actually take my call, because the secretary would always say, no, I'm sorry, he's not
busy.
available. And finally he would take my call. Okay, oh, you're the friend of my friend in Germany. Okay, you can come to my office. And he said, yeah, if you want to show me what kind of music you write for television, I have this film here. It's a television film. I already have music for it. The composer did already the music, but if you want, you can take it home. You score like 1 or 2 scenes just so I can see how you write music. And I did. I took the film home, back on video cassette back then. And instead of just scoring 2 scenes, I scored the whole movie. Just with synthesizers and so.
Yeah.
And I brought it back to him, and he was so impressed by that he did not take my music for this film, but then for the next film he called me. So what I learned from this is as a composer. So
beautiful.
So if you give the people more than they expect, then you leave a big impression. Or like there's the saying, there's no traffic on the extra mile.
Do you hear that, guys? That's a good lesson for all of us. Yeah, persistency.
Yes.
Perseverance.
And give the people
passion,
more than they would expect or even think. Or
driveness,
yeah.
You know, that's such important thing in any career, in any profession. When you really got that strong decision and you really pursue something with a lot of passion and seriously, of course, sooner or later, God gonna send you a reward.
Right.
For sure.
But the way that is not always, it still goes up and down. It's not just, it did not go just straight up from there. So in my first year, because I thought it's going to take at least 4 or 5 years until I get my foot in the door. In my first year, I was scoring 2 television movies, one for ABC and one for CBS. But that was back then in the mid-90s when
that's
the major...
Not bad. CBS
that was a good start.
Man, tell me about it.
But let me tell you, because it was just... At that time, the major networks, ABC and CBS, they had on Sunday evenings their network movies, Sunday night movies. But that was just, I just caught the tail end of that, because along came Big Brother and Survivor and all these shows, and they stopped doing these network movies. Television movies were suddenly, from one year to the next, they were gone. And my only contact, this television movie producer...
That was the guy.
That was the guy, that was so far my only contact. He stopped doing these movies. And then I had nothing. Suddenly, I had nothing.
But at least you break the ice in a certain way.
Yeah.
The people were able to hear your music. Yeah. And in the long term, for sure, sooner or later.
But it took at least 4 or 5 years. Then for the next 4 or 5 years, I would not earn a single American dollar while I was here.
And your wife was playing?
My wife was playing a little bit, but not too much, because once we had kids, she stopped working in the studios as a violin player. So she was home caring for the kids.
You were hungry.
And well, luckily, I still had a German television series. I was still working for Germany. I was composing music.
You did it from here?
I did it from here. So they were sending, there was before you could do it over the internet, they were sending me the videotapes every week.
And then you send it back?
And I would write the music and record the music here and would send it back. And that kept us alive for 4 more years until I had then my first job here. So that kept us alive. It was not much, but it was enough to get around.
Thanks God you survive, and you have the guts to really
and I have
support that.
Exactly. And what kind of got the ball rolling? What got the ball rolling? Because I had one job in Germany. I was the music director for the German equivalent of the Oscar, like a movie award show, just like on a smaller scale. But I needed to do a pre-record for the show. I needed to do it here. So I booked, there was I think in my second year here, and I booked a big band session at Capitol Studios, and I didn't know any musicians, so I had a contractor, Jules Chaikin was his name. He booked a big band for me with strings, and I recorded this music. It was like show type music. It was not jazz, it wasn't like show award music. So I recorded that at Capitol Studios, was my first session there. And after the session, the musicians came up to me and said, "Hey, we really like playing your arrangements." And first I thought, yeah, they're just schmoozing because they want to be called again. But they said, no, we mean this. We would love to play your music if you write music that you just write for yourself. And I said, yeah, I'm flattered, but how do we do this? And they said, well, there are rehearsal rooms at the Musicians Union. Why don't you write some charts and we
bring it on.
And we meet once a month and we play your charts. And those musicians that convinced me to do this and said we should do this were Wayne Bergeron, Brandon Fields, Tom Peterson, Kim Richmond, and those guys. They said, and that's how my band started. That's how my big band started, because Wayne said, let's get together, play your charts.
That's beautiful, man.
So that's what's the start of my big band. And then for the first 2 years or so, we didn't play any gigs, we just rehearsed. And then after 2 years or so, I said, well, let's play. Let's book a gig.
The repertoire together.
And we had the book, and we had some repertoire. So we started playing Catalinas once in a while. And then I had the show I was working on in Germany got picked up for syndication, which means they suddenly, even though I was done working with the show, they started re-airing every day. So I had generated some extra money. So I had some extra money, and I invested this to record an album with a big band. So, and that album got 2 Grammy nominations.
Your first album?
My first album here got 2 Grammy nominations.
Not bad.
And that was the start of then suddenly other people noticed, and David Foster noticed, and Michael Bolton. So that kind of got me started in arranging more.
The phone started ringing.
So, and the lesson I also learned from that is, if you have a little bit extra money, it's really important to invest it in your career and not buy like a fancy car or like a big house. Invest it in your career first, because then it'll be able to buy you later.
It's gonna pay off.
Exactly. And for example, my friend Hans Zimmer used a very good analogy. He uses more in his world. He always says, a synthesizer can buy you a house, but a house cannot buy you a synthesizer. Which I think is so true.
That's very true.
If you have some spare money, invest it first in something that's important for you. In his case, it's a synthesizer. In my case, was recording my music.
Wow, that's great, Chris.
Yeah.
And then, which singer you arranged for him? The big time guy, the first time here in LA.
The first big artist I worked with was Christopher Cross.
Christopher
Cross, mostly for his symphony shows. But the first big recording project I did here in LA was for Michael Bolton. And
wow.
When he did the Bolton
It was a good beginning, both of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then through David Foster, I was very fortunate to work with a lot of great artists, from Michael Bublé to Barbra Streisand, Diana Krall, and over the years, a lot of...
Are you dropping name or? That's great, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
And also, I was so glad to reunite with you, because when you moved out from Miami, when you moved out to LA, I was so happy to reunite with you, and then we got working together again.
I think we met again in Vibrato.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yes.
I don't know what I was doing there. I was playing there, or
I don't remember.
Or what show was, but we met there. I remember we met there again. Yes. And your big band still active?
Yes.
No?
Oh, I still play with my big band. Not as much as I would like to, but we still rehearse once in a while and play gigs.
And I remember you wrote a tune that you called Arturo.
Yes.
Thank you so much, man.
Yes, and we recorded.
It's a big honor for me.
Absolutely.
And we recorded for your album.
For my last album. It's on my last album, yeah.
Beautiful. And that album is out already?
Yeah, it's called Full On. And it has been released a year ago, so it's out, yeah.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Okay, here we have two dear friends, Mr. Dustin Higgin on the control room, recording and producing and making all the sound possible. And then we have our dear friend, Tim Lamarca over here, writing and taking care about all the questions. And guys, don't miss this opportunity to ask questions about anything regarding music with our dear friend CHRIS WALDEN. Chris has been extremely successful orchestrator, composer, arranger, trumpet player, band leader, all the above, and he played with who is who and a road chart for who is who in the business. And it's a great opportunity for us to ask questions about anything regarding. But the most important thing for me is your example, your role model as a guy who get here very young with your pencil and your brain and nothing else.
That's basically it. Yeah.
Your pencil and your brain and your strong desire to break the ice in the business. The life in Los Angeles as a musician is not easy.
It can be tough, yeah.
Could be tough.
It is tough.
But it's not impossible.
It is not impossible.
As I always said, it's always room for another good one.
Yeah, if you're really determined, if you're really good, and then as I would say, cream rises to the top, there's always room for people who really have mastered their skill and can have something to offer. If they have something musical to offer, and especially in this town, this is also what I appreciated about Los Angeles and about the spirit of everyone gets a chance. That's a little bit different from in Europe. So if you come here, even though there's a lot of talent, but there are also a lot of people who pretend. If you weed your way through this, then you have a chance of making it.
A lot of fake things.
There's also a lot of fake here.
Yeah. But, as you say, the most important thing is your desire, your inner engine that moves you and you never stop. You never stop because it's always going to be obstacles and inconvenience in our way. Yeah. But your passion, your desire, your discipline must be stronger than those obstacles. And in the end, you're going to jump on top of that and you're going to land in the other side. Yeah. And it's always room and opportunity for a good one. Yeah. But you have to be prepared. Yes. Because not every day God sends you a good opportunity. Yeah. But when God sends you one, you better be ready to do a good job.
Exactly. And
it's
actually,
very important.
To bring this into one sentence is a big break or a break in someone's career always happens if preparation meets opportunity.
Oh yeah. But the preparation is extremely important. Yeah. Because you have to nail it the first time.
Exactly.
You cannot fail. Yeah. Because otherwise, a good comments take time and it's difficult to go around. Yeah. But a bad comment and a gossip and the bad things, when you really screw up something, everybody gonna know 10 minutes after. And especially now with all the media and all the communication, with the world is so small and everybody know everything and everybody, it's so easy to spread bad news and easy, But we have to be careful. Don't give that opportunity to the people to spread the bad news. Yeah. It's better to weigh and nail it up first to be sure. The gossip around gonna be, man, you hear that young man from Germany? Damn, man, that guy is amazing. He's so good. Yeah. But some people complain because when that opportunity came to you, some of them, they're not prepared. And they don't do the good job. Yeah. Then you're gonna pay the consequence for that. Yeah. But that was all your fault. Yeah. It's like a guy who was in the middle of the countryside. It was raining a lot, raining, and the water started to raise, and he was on a roof already. And a young man came with the little boat and said, "Hey man, I hear in the radio somewhere that you're gonna keep going up. You better jump in the boat. I'm gonna save you." He said, "No, man, no. I believe in God, and that never gonna happen to me." Finally, the guy died. He went to heaven and talked to God and said, "God, I believe in you so much, man. Why you did that to me?" He said, "Excuse me, are you the guy that sent you a boat to save you? What you want me to go myself and rescue?"
Yeah, but that's a good analogy because being prepared and also
be ready.
Yeah, and also you have to see where there's a door for you and you have to go through it.
Tell me about it.
People can open your doors, but you have to go through it yourself.
The piece we hear in the beginning of the show, that was a project you did with the orchestra here in Los Angeles.
Yes.
It's considered like a classical music?
Well, it was for a film. It was for a television movie called The Great Gatsby. And that was the main theme I wrote for the character.
Oh.
And yeah, we did this here at Sony Scoring Stage in Los Angeles. Yeah.
Till, do you have any? We are almost halfway through. Do you have any question there for us?
Yes, do have a couple of questions.
Yes, go ahead.
One, let's see, we have from Anna Van Eaton. She was asking at what time frame, Chris, did you work with Barbra Streisand?
With Barbra, I just worked recently. I have to know the first time I orchestrated an arrangement by George Calandrelli for Barbara's album called The Movie Album. And that was like 10, 12 years ago. But I wrote an arrangement for her just earlier this year for her last album called Encore, Movie Partners.
Wow.
And it's called, it's a duet with Melissa McCarthy, and it's called Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better.
Beautiful.
Just came out last month.
Full orchestra?
No, big band and strings.
Big band and strings.
Yeah.
No good winds, no brass. No, I mean
saxes, but no flutes or oboes.
flute,
Yeah.
oboes, yeah.
Yeah.
Good, beautiful. You have another question?
Oh, we had a general trumpet question. So since
Uh-oh.
we're all trumpet players here, yeah. Just something, general, I'm having a little technical problem with one thing here, but trying to find his name. He's from gentleman from Taiwan. No,
Oh.
from Thailand, excuse me, from Thailand. He wants to know about tonguing. If you have any tips for like double tonguings, Carnival of Venice, fast tonguing.
Well, before you jump in, tonguing is something that I always struggled with it, double and triple tonguing. So I gave that up really early, so you have to tell about that. So.
You know, oh man, this is not the day today for that. But anyway.
No, but I'm interested myself. I want to hear what you have to say.
It doesn't
about
matter about the sound, Dusty. You know what I believe in terms of double and triple tonguing. The first thing you have to master and be sure is your single
tonguing.
Single tonguing is good.
Because I think it's all important what position your tongue is for the first T.
Yeah.
Because that determines how you can then do the K, the TK thing. And
But what the old teacher said is try to match, try to equalize the pronunciation of the attack of the T with the K.
Yeah.
With the K is with the throat and the T with the tongue,
Yeah.
of course. But what I have been doing for years is to just a single tongue first. Then do the same thing with the K. And then
only with a K?
yeah.
Okay.
And then T. K. And then one beat each. And then 2 and 2. And then when you start on the double tongue, it start with the K instead of the T.
Oh, okay.
Like kata kata kata. And instead taka 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 kata 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 kata. And the triple, the same thing. But the most important thing is the single.
Yeah.
If your single is good, the double and triple gonna be a piece of cake.
Yeah.
But okay, this is not a today thing.
No, but
No, I understand.
that's fascinating because
Mike Wolvat was asking the trumpet part, so we asked that too.
That's
so
okay.
Anything else you play trumpet? Mariachi is a great way to learn double and triple tonguing. You're forced to do it. Listen to some great mariachi trumpet players. Al Rafael Mendez too. There's not just.
But you know what Rafael said in an interview that I watched many times? He said that his single was so slow and so bad that his father taught him to do a double, mostly all the time. And then
okay.
that was the way he developed such a fast and accurate and perfect double
Because he was
tongue.
double tonguing all the time.
He was double tonguing, even
Even with some-
things that you don't need to.
Yeah, I see.
He was doing that.
Yeah.
It's what he said. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Don't quote me.
Yeah.
Quote him.
We're gonna say happy birthday to Chuck Finley. He's watching. So happy.
Oh yeah, Chuck.
Chuck,
Chuck
happy birthday. And Chuck is another one I've
He
known.
was here too. He
Oh,
was
good.
in the show. Yeah.
Chuck and I also go way back. Chuck met me first in Hamburg, when I was still in Hamburg. Before I moved to Cologne, I think I was 18 or 19 years old. That's when also Chuck met me.
Because he used to play there a lot. No?
Exactly. He played with the Hamburg Radio Big Band, and that's where we met first.
And the other orchestra also, Jane Lass, no?
And James Last, he played a lot with, until he died, actually, yeah.
Oh yeah. That's great, man. Do you have another
Hi,
question?
Chuck.
Well, no, we don't have any questions right now. So please ask
Okay.
some questions here. We had.
That could be two things. Are you missing the opportunity, or you know everything? And that's not cool, because nobody know everything. It's always something we could learn from anybody. You never know when, where, or how.
Yeah.
I have a question though.
Go ahead.
Because I know this is something, Arturo, you've talked about many times before, about the importance of playing the piano. Chris, when did you, obviously I would think you're well, play the piano. When did you start? Was it before you learned trumpet? Or
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, so my first instrument was recorder when I was 4 years old, and then at age 7 I learned piano, had piano lessons, and then I started learning trumpet at age 13, and then trumpet became my main instrument, but I would still continue to have piano lessons as well.
That's
So
great.
piano is really important, especially if you're writing music. Piano is really understanding harmonies, and so. And yeah, now my first compositions I would, even though I was playing trumpet, my first compositions I would write on piano. So,
Man, I cannot write 2 notes if I don't have a piano in front of me.
yeah.
And completely useless if I don't have a piano.
Yeah.
And we have a question from Pamela Brown asking if there's still radio orchestras in Germany.
So there are still 3 radio. Unfortunately, most of them, because of privatization of broadcasters in Germany, most of them were closed down. But there is still some left. There is still
The WR.
There is still the WDR in Cologne, and they still have the NDR in Hamburg, and the Frankfurt Radio Big Band. Those are the only 3 ones that are left that are fully employed. But there is one in Stuttgart.
They do only radio shows.
No, they do. Those big bands are employed by the radio station, and they record albums, and they do concerts, and they do broadcasts on radio and television. So they still work for the television radio station. And
I did an album a few years ago with WDR.
yeah, exactly. You did, yeah.
With Michael Mussman.
Yeah.
He do the charts.
the road,
That was great orchestra. Good.
So to answer that question, so there are 3 radio big bands left, but there are considerably more radio symphony orchestras left. I think there are at least almost a dozen of radio orchestras.
Dozen?
Yeah,
Damn.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
yeah.
We don't have that many here in this country.
Well, we have a lot of symphony orchestras, but the difference here in the US, they're all privately financed, so they have to raise a lot of sponsors and memberships, and so and the luxury situation in Germany is because the broadcasters, the broadcast stations, they're by themselves government, at least partly government funded, so therefore they have money to entertain a radio orchestra, and in some cases even a radio big band and a choir.
Wow, that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Amazing. I would like to share with the guys that recently I wrote a new trumpet concerto, and I got a privilege and an honor that CHRIS orchestrated for me. He put everything in black and white and put everything to sound in the way they should. And I did a premiere in Czech Republic a few months ago.
Right.
And even the conductor is a good composer too. Jan Kusera. He's a good musician from Czech Republic. And he's also a composer and orchestrator. And he compliment your orchestration very much.
Oh, thank you.
He compliment your orchestration, but not my piece.
No.
He said, man, the orchestration is wonderful. He said, oh, thank you. I'm going to let Chris know.
No, but I have to say, it was a pleasure to do that because the melodies were constructed in such beautiful lines and arches, so it made musically so much sense, so that it almost was orchestrating itself. It was, I could add my touches and my colors to it, but it has a beautiful structure already. It was masterfully crafted.
I put everything there in in the keyboard and thing. But of course, that concerto is not a pretension to be like a very deep and what I'm gonna say. It's not like something fancy. It's
but it was
melodic.
Heart from exactly. My heart is very passionate and very melodic, and that's what I like about it. It doesn't have to be too construed and intellectual.
Yeah, too much intellectual. That doesn't touch my heart either. And I'm gonna tell you a lot of modern pieces around. For the trumpet repertoire, I'm not a big fan of that because and then when you finish, I said, man, I would love to remember at least one bar.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think it's really important that you are aware who you're writing it for, and that you're gonna, if your intention is to reach the emotion in the audience, I think then you're on the right track, and that's what you did with your piece. Because that's who you want to reach.
Transmit feelings.
Yes, exactly. And if you're trying to reinvent the wheel or just writing for the music critics, or then I think that's not sort of direction I like. Yeah, and then you're too theoretical about this and don't follow your heart anymore.
Too sophisticated.
And don't write for the listener anymore. And then you alienate most of the audience and only focus on the few critics that might be able to understand this.
And not even the critic understands.
Yeah.
Okay, and what did you? How many albums you did with your big band?
With my big band, I did 4 albums.
4 albums.
4 albums, yeah.
And you're planning to do a next one?
And I'm planning. I just started putting some ideas together for my next album. And I think my next album is going to be a holiday Christmas record.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but I'm going to do...
That mean for the Christmas of 17?
Maybe 17 or even 18 now.
18.
Yeah, and but I'm going to pick some Christmas songs and really going to approach them differently and going to take them apart a little bit and have fun with them. And
it's going to be with big band?
With big band, yeah.
Big band.
Yeah, so that's going to be my next project. But first, I just finished a Christmas record with Herb Alpert, which I produced and arranged.
Wow,
with,
trumpet players.
Yes.
You hear that?
Another trumpet player.
He produced the latest Herb Alpert album, a Christmas album.
Yes.
Wow.
It's going to come out Christmas 2000.
It's done already?
It's done. We just mastered it. It's going to come out in Christmas 2017, so next year, not this year. And Herb is really happy with it, and he considers
his wife sing too.
And his wife sing one song on it.
One song, and the rest
is just her playing.
He's playing.
And I had the great privilege to write a new Christmas song for Lani, for his wife, to sing. And Paul Williams wrote the lyrics to it, and it's called It's called The Christmas Wish. And this has been one of my dreams to at least have a try and have a shot at writing a new Christmas song.
Wow, that's great news, man.
Yeah, beautiful. So we'll see how that does, and kind of coming out next Christmas.
And share with us your work with Diana Krall.
Yes, Diana. I've been working with Diana Krall for almost at least 10 years, writing and orchestrating arrangements for her records. But 2 years ago, she appointed me music director for all her shows.
And you still?
And I am still, which meant that after having not been on tour for years, I started going out on tour again last year as her music director and conductor whenever she does a show with orchestra. So whenever she's just with her band on tour, I'm not on it. Yeah. But last year we did 3 weeks of Australia, all with orchestra, and I was the conductor on tour for her.
Wow.
So on and off whenever she does shows with orchestra.
That's great, man. That's great.
Then I'm on it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And And then you're thinking about to write another classical piece for full orchestra? You're thinking about?
Yeah. I'm thinking about writing maybe another piece for full orchestra, a trumpet concerto.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. If somebody could write a trumpet concerto...
Who could play this?
I don't know. Let's talk about that later. But of course, your capacity as an orchestrator and your skill to know all the colors of the orchestra and everything, and knowing very well the instrument, because sometimes people try trumpet concertos and some things they're not related to the...
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually a very good point. I think being a trumpet player helps me being somewhat a better composer, or like being a better composer, but it helps me to write for other instruments just besides trumpet. Just being a wind instrument player, I think makes me more aware of that wind instrument players need to breathe, so they cannot play forever, because
and especially brass, we need to breathe
and we need to rest.
And we need to take that out of the mouth for a while.
To rest.
Some people don't realize that.
Exactly, and very often, I mean, there are great composers who come from a keyboard and never had a wind instrument in their hand. Some of them write amazing. Some of them,
I need to breathe.
Some of them write amazing stuff, but some of them tend to override the wind players, especially the brass, because they never had an instrument in their face and don't know what it feels like, and don't know that actually you need to put it down, you need to circulate, have your lips circulate and getting blood there again.
Yeah.
And I think that helped me, especially being a trumpet player, to write for wind instruments. And actually, when I started to write, I was so interested in every of the instruments I was in the orchestra that, and I only really play trumpet and piano, but I also bought myself a valve trombone and a flugelhorn, of course. But I did buy myself a valve trombone, and I borrowed a slide trombone, and I played when I was a teenager, and I played that for a little bit.
You're familiar with that?
Yeah, my sister, when she started playing saxophone, so I would borrow her saxophone and try a little bit of saxophone. So I do play a little bit of saxophone. Uh-huh. So, and out of the orchestra, I think I had almost. Oh yeah, my sister also. Since I'm married to a violin player, my sister played violin, I had the violin in my hand and I tried a little bit. So I think every instrument in the orchestra, at least I had in my hand once to know what it feels like. Even the bassoon.
That's
so
very
it's.
important.
I think it's even that I don't know how to. I cannot play it, but at least I know what it's. To have a sense for it, at least have it in your hand once, makes you a better composer when you write for that instrument. Even for the harp, I remember I had no idea how to write for the harp. So I was in my early 20s, and I had an orchestra session. I went up to the harpist and said, "Show me your instrument. How does it work with all the pedals and so on?" She let me.
Oh my goodness! Yes,
and
it's so complicated.
And she let me try it, and I tried it a little bit. Oh, that's how it works. So I think it's for a composer or an arranger. It's important to know the instruments you're writing for.
Not only theoretically.
Not only theoretically, but have it at least in
Physical,
your hand.
in your hands.
Know what it feels like.
Exactly.
Or the oboe or whatever. For example, when you write for the clarinet and you write a trill, then you write a trill that is maybe like a B natural, B flat trill, which on the piano is just like this.
What about G sharp to A sharp?
Exactly. Some trills
in the clarinet.
Yeah. You have to move so many fingers for that. Some trills on the clarinet might be just one finger, and some other trills
impractical.
That are on the piano just like two fingers are almost all fingers on the clarinet. So it's important to know these things.
Yeah. And let me ask you something. When you start from scratch, let's put on a sample on the big band. What you do first?
First, if it's an arrangement of an existing composition...
an arrangement, okay.
Then the first thing I do is to sit down, not even with a score, just with a lead sheet and find new changes or better changes. The chords. Reharmonizing. So I just go with the lead sheet and I do a printout of real book or whatever lead sheet you can buy online. And most often the chords are very basic, and sometimes they're even wrong. So what I do is...
Don't trust those things.
Exactly. For at least an hour, I find new chords, I reharmonize this tune, and I find new chords, better chords, and I try to then, for example, if it's AABA form, I try to come up with a second A with some different chords than in the first A. And then the bridge, and then the last A, maybe I go back to the first A or even a third version of reharmonization. And once I have done that, half of the arrangements is already in that.
And you write like a piano part or something first?
No, I just write the chord changes like
just the symbols.
The chord symbols I write into the lead sheet. And then because if I have really cool chord changes, all the inner lines, the counterpoints, already in there. I just have to get them out and then write in the score paper. So then I go to the score paper, which when I...
You do it by hand?
In the early days I was doing it with pencil on paper. Now I work with a notation software. I use Finale, which to me feels like pencil on paper. I don't like to write in a sequencer because when I write with a sequencer like Logic or Pro Tools, I feel my creativity is limited because I would only write for the sounds that are at my disposal. And I have a lot of...
I think we're back.
Yeah.
We're back now.
Just interrupted for a second?
No, for minutes. It's okay. We're back. I'm sorry. Yeah, we have no control of that.
Where was I?
We were talking about the way
notation.
You started.
I write with the notation.
Finale.
I use Finale because that to me feels like pencil on paper because I'm not going in real time and I write what's in my head and I don't have to worry about
without listening to anything.
Without listening to anything. I write it and then Finale can play it back, very rudimentary, but I could not play this to a client. It's not like a demo. I just have it play back to see
check every note
if there are no wrong notes. But it's not a demo that I can play to a client. If I have to do a demo, then I export the data out of Finale, import them into Sequencer, assign nice sounds to it, do all the dynamics and massage it and detail it,
the whole thing.
and then mix it, and then I can sound it out as a demo. But that takes almost as long as writing it in Finale. So very often I have someone else do that so-called mock-up. I have someone else do the mock-up, or sometimes I do the mock-up myself. But it's a second step. It's a separate part.
And this is when it is for big band or in general?
In general, if it's for big band kind of or orchestra for writing arrangements.
Any kind of formation.
Yeah. When I write film music, it's a little different. Film music, I write part of it in a sequencer and part of it in Finale, like notation software. Because film music, when you work to picture, it sometimes makes more sense to write it in a sequencer, but I try to listen to my inner ear and not to how the sound's coming, the sample sound.
And extremely interesting to hear you talking a little bit more about that. Because, I'm trying to learn how to write for film.
Yeah.
And do you read the script when they send it to you first?
I try to avoid it.
No?
Yeah.
You don't read it?
No, I don't. I sometimes I have to, but I rather not read the script.
Wow.
Because I want to experience the film like the audience sees it for the first time. I want to have the fresh impressions of the picture, of the film. Because when I read the script, I envision...
You know the whole story?
No, and I envision some characters. I make up my mind. I have ideas about the character, and when I see them then on the film, that's how I thought he would look different, or he would be different.
Wow.
So have better, fresh impressions if I see the film without reading the script.
I'm impressed about that because you know what I hear almost everybody say. Yeah, we have to read the script first, and then.
I don't like to. I mean, sometimes I have to. If I have to write the music before the cut is done, then I have to actually read the script. Or they send me the script if I want to do the movie at all, and they don't even have the cut yet. Then I read the script, but then I try to forget it and see the film.
Okay. What about when you have the final cut?
Yeah.
A video.
Yeah.
You watch it first, or you start working cue by cue?
I watch it first together with it, as you know, we're doing the spotting session.
Without playing anything, without doing anything.
And sometimes, as you're also aware, sometimes they put temp music on it, which I hate, and I try to let me see
That's
it at
very
least.
distracting.
Exactly.
In the end, it's always a problem.
Yeah, because they get used to the temp music and they fall in love with the temp music. What
And
we
then
call,
they don't own that.
and they call
cannot
it temp
use it.
love, and whatever I come up after that is never be as good as the temp music, because that's what they heard.
They're married to that.
They're
They're
married
married to that.
Exactly. So that's very difficult. Unfortunately, something we have to deal with. Temp music is not going to go
true.
away.
That's true.
But then when I write the film music, I watch the whole film. I try to pick the most important scene of the film, like a key moment of the film, and that has the longest cue, and I write that first.
Oh.
And I pick maybe 2 or 3 key scenes or most important scenes of the film, 2 or 3.
Different melodies.
Yeah, and I write those first, and I try to develop leitmotifs. If it's a film where it's appropriate to write leitmotifs, the themes for the special characters. So I write those few scenes first, and then from that I draw to write the rest of the score. And then I go back to the beginning, and then I write chronologically. But I do the big scenes first, and then I go back to the beginning, and then I work chronologically all the scenes. But then I would kind of use music from those big cues and do the rest with that.
Wow. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
Because that helped me a lot, you know. I really, you know, and the way that I do it, of course, is completely different. I put the film there from the very beginning, and I start playing.
Yeah.
Next cue.
Yeah.
Next cue.
Yeah.
I just
No, that's
play.
nothing wrong with that either. Yeah.
Play on top.
No.
And but in the end, I make so many mistakes, because in the end, sometimes I end writing 20 different melodies.
In one film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, I have a lot of things to learn about that. I know I shouldn't do that, and I have to improve that thing, and I have to learn how to polish that kind of things, because I've been doing that for years. I wrote 20 different melodies.
Yeah.
Every character, every scene have a different
melody,
different melody, even a different approach in terms of instrumentation or something.
Yeah.
And which is, I like that. I like the different colors.
There's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm gonna take your advice very seriously, to write first the main scene.
Yeah.
I should I say the climax of the things? I mean
that's the
bread and butter of the
exactly
story.
like the money shot of the film, or the climax of the film. That's what I try to do first.
And then based on that, you do the rest.
I do the rest. Yeah.
Wow.
Because then I have little fragments, and I can use for the opening or for like little transition scenes. Because then I can hint at that big moment. I can give hints away musically.
Wow. That's amazing, man. You ever work with a director that give you a very hard time?
Oh yeah.
That they don't like anything.
All had that. Yes.
Oh my, that's very
tough.
frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
It's difficult.
Because movie directors or television directors usually are, because they went to film school or they know everything about filmmaking. A director is usually the better editor, the better actor, the better cameraman, the better scriptwriter. They know, because they know, can tell all these people, they can tell them how to do their job, because they've been that probably themselves at some point. Only when it comes to music, they don't know anything about music, and they also don't know how to articulate what they want.
Yeah, and some of them pretend they know.
Exactly, and some of them actually pretend, and sometimes if they know a little bit, it's even more dangerous if they don't know nothing at all.
They give you a little bit of freedom to express yourself. And
exactly.
You're a musician. They're not a musician.
Yeah, so I'd rather work with a director who doesn't know anything about music than a director who knows a little bit, enough to be dangerous.
And sometimes give you the wrong direction, you know.
Yeah, for example, I remember one time a director...
Don't mention any names.
No, I don't like... But
we don't want to be in trouble.
I remember one time a director said, for this scene, I want something that sounds like Keith Jarrett. I said, oh, he knows his shit. He knows Keith Jarrett. Okay. I wrote a piece that sounds like what we think of Keith Jarrett. And I played him that piece, and he said, no, that's not Keith Jarrett. No, that's not what I had in mind.
Oh my Lord.
And I said, well, that's how we know how Keith Jarrett sounds. And then with talking to him, I did find out that, because I asked him, so play me what do you know of Keith Jarrett? And he
Maybe
brought
he was thinking about Richard Clayton.
No, it was Keith Jarrett. He brought me a record of Keith Jarrett.
Excuse me 1 second. Keep going. Yeah.
He brought me a record of Keith Jarrett that Keith did in his very early career, where he played bebop.
The tune, the Dizzy Gillespie tune?
No, any bebop tune. But it was
bebop,
like very early in Keith Jarrett's career where he just played bebop.
Yeah.
And he thought that's representative of Keith Jarrett, which of course it isn't.
No, later
So he only knew a little bit about Keith Jarrett, about jazz, but not what we know about jazz. So this is an example, so where a director knew a little bit about music, but enough to be dangerous. So luckily we cleared up that whole misunderstanding. Oh, now I know what you mean. This is not what Keith Jarrett is known for, but I know what you want.
Unbelievable.
And those experiences we have a lot.
Do you have questions?
We have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
One, I think you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. Pamela Brown was asking, are there still routes for young arrangers to come up through the ranks?
Absolutely. And I think, as Arturo said, there's always room for a good one.
Oh, always.
And
nobody gonna stop you.
I mean, there's bad news and there's good news. The bad news first is that obviously recorded music, there's less and less money being made with recorded music and selling music at this point. But I don't see us as pessimistic as other people do, because I think if we all work together with the recording industry and with the record labels, we'll be able to turn this around and make streaming music profitable for all of us. We just have to push for the right legislation that will make sure that'll be that way. So the good news is then that handmade music and music that requires arrangers will always be in demand. There will always be people who want to make music with orchestras, so that will never go away. And for that we always need arrangers. And actually all the arrangers that I'm competing with, or that are my peers, or that I work on the same projects with, are all people that are a generation older than me. So I'm working on the same projects with people, they're all in their 70s and 80s, and some of them are even in their 90s, arrangers. Like the arrangers that we know, they're Johnny Mandel's, but as life has it, they're not going to be around forever. So there will be demand for new arrangers eventually.
The replacement have to be ready.
Yeah, so there is room for...
Always the room.
Exactly,
Yeah.
especially if you have your own voice.
You know, can you imagine when I moved to the U.S., and some people say, hey man, you're Cuban.
Yeah.
You pretend you're going to go to the U.S. to play the trumpet? You know how many
Just trying to discourage.
thousands of good trumpet player and great trumpet player in the U.S. And that's what I said. I said, man, I don't know. I'm going to try. I don't want to give up.
Yeah, no. And
I won't give up. No. It's always room for one more.
Absolutely.
Always. And when it's the real deal, nobody gonna stop you.
Yeah.
Now the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
Yes, Tim.
We have another question from Anna Van Eaton. She said, when do we get the pleasure of hearing this piece being your trumpet concerto that Chris did the orchestration for?
Okay.
That's a good point.
That's a good point. And,
I would even love to hear it.
Oh yeah, I did a premiere in Czech Republic, and then the beginning of the next year, I'm gonna do another couple of live performance of the piece you orchestrated, and with the National Polish
great.
Orchestra,
Yeah.
and also with the National Czech Republic, because I played with the orchestra, was one of the city in Czech Republic, but now I'm going to do also with the National Symphony in Prague. Those two things. I hope, I keep my finger crossed, I hope that one of those, or maybe two of them, are going to be able to at least have a good recording, live recording.
Yeah.
Maybe not a pristine or perfect studio recording,
but
something at least to share with
That would be nice.
Yeah, to hear with the full orchestra.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Because it's a really impressive piece. It's bombastic, it's melodic, it's emotional, it's everything I want it to be.
And any trumpet player could play.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I swear,
Yeah.
any trumpet player. It's nothing fancy.
It's not too demanding, no.
Difficult at all.
Yeah.
It's very melodic.
Yeah.
It's very melodic. It's something very
Yes.
simple that anybody could play.
Yeah.
And that's my desire, you know.
But that was also your intention, right?
As many
Yeah.
people, man, I wish everybody would, you know, at least a few people would like to do it. I'd be more than happy and honored and
Yeah.
Okay, you have another question now?
Not another question yet.
Okay, we have a few minutes left.
Keith
No many.
here wanted to say, checking in from Hong Kong. He's there today. So, Captain Keith, the trumpet player, Keith Wolsinger, said hi from Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah,
He's in Hong Kong?
Yeah, Hong
The
Kong.
pilot?
Yep.
Pilot/trumpet player.
Yeah, and he also has his own klezmer podcast he does. For klezmer.
Oh, yeah. Hi, I know Keith. Hi, Keith.
Hi, you in Hong Kong, man?
Yeah, so please, if anybody has another question, that'd be fantastic. Well, let's see, what is it? What is the orchestration? Pamela, if you could clear that. Oh, please hear us. Okay, yeah, it was just comment about your trumpet concerto. Please hear us playable. I say
It's very playable.
Yeah.
Very playable.
And the second movement would.
It's a melody, just a melody. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's nothing complicated because what I would love is the people at least remember a couple of bars of the melody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you would like to mention that you're still working on, or that your next project in the near future?
Yeah, my next project is I'm scoring a movie. It's a horror film. It's for next year's Halloween. It's called The Terror of Hallows Eve. It's a scary movie, but it's a fun movie as well, and it's a low budget movie, but it's fun. And that'll come out. I just started coming up with the themes for the most important scenes. Exactly. It has a lot of clusters and.
I never did anything like that, man. I have no idea.
But I'm still trying to sneak in a good melody here and there, because how can you not like a nice melody, even in a horror film?
Yeah. When you have a good melody, you have it all.
Exactly.
If you don't have a good melody, you have nothing.
It's all about the good melody, I think.
Yeah, for me, I think is the most important thing, a melody.
Yeah.
But I hear a good friend of mine say something here yesterday that I was laughing. He said, "What a couple of ladies was a wife of two very important composers. They meet each other, and I said they never meet before, and one of them said, "Oh, Miss, nice to meet you. I am the wife of the composer of I don't want to say it, a famous melody." And she said, no. I am the wife of that composer. I said, "Oh, what do you mean?" He said, "Are you the wife of the musician who wrote it?" "Oh, yeah, your husband do da 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 da." No, my wife wrote the song. My husband wrote the song. I said, man, that is...
Because the lyrics are really important, yeah.
Yes, but any of the music of Beethoven, Mozart, Stravinsky, Prokofiev, Mahler, Debussy, Ravel, Rachmaninoff, man, come on. Any of those things have lyrics.
Yeah, exactly, that's true.
No way. The melody is something.
Melody is king, yeah.
And also, the language always have a barrier, because not everybody understands. You're doing it in any language.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a bunch of people that don't gonna get it. But a melody, you don't need anything to know anything. Only close your eyes, close your mouth, and open your ear, and let the melody penetrate your sense and your brain and your soul, and that could be a long discussion, what's more important,
Yeah.
But a composer can't survive without lyrics.
Yeah, but a lyricist not without a composer. Yeah.
Lyricists without composer, they got a point.
Exactly, that's
They
the
got
point.
a point,
But it's not music, yeah.
But they don't have a song.
Yeah, yeah.
We
Okay.
have a couple other questions.
Okay.
Okay.
We are
First of all, Keith sent
very
us
close to the end.
and he asked you if you could explain something about the Bots Act legislation.
Yeah, the Bots Act legislation is, since Keith and I, we both served together on the Advocacy Committee at the Recording Academy, has to do with the ticket scalping. That's a piece of legislation that just wasn't put in front of the Congress to be passed, and it looks likely that it's being passed, that puts an end to illegal ticket sales of concerts.
Illegal tickets?
Yeah, because right now what happens a lot that third-party companies or people would buy tickets off of Ticketmaster and then sell them again for more money. And then the ticket is sold out and can only be bought by third-party ticket vendors. And that kind of undermines, for example, for an Arturo Sandoval concert, it's sold out, so people cannot buy the original ticket at the original vendor, but they can buy it for more money. But you don't get that money.
Another seller.
Yeah, another seller, another vendor, but that money doesn't go to you or the venue, that just gets marked up by this third-party vendor.
Oh, that's not
So,
good.
and that's why and that kind of really hurts the music industry, and especially the live concert music industry.
It's a lot of things that hurt the music industry
Yeah.
lately.
Yeah.
Wow. Another question, Tim?
Well, let's see. Another one is asking about your trumpet concerto that you did the orchestration. They're just asking about the orchestration, I guess the instrumentation, which is...
The instrumentation is for, we did it for a standard full standard symphony orchestra. We did it for, but also we tried to keep the instrumentation very compatible with every standard any orchestra, which means double woodwinds, which means 2 flutes, 2 oboes, 2 clarinets, 2 bassoons, 4 French horns, 3 trumpets, 3 trombones, a tuba, timpani, percussion, harp, and strings. That's the instrumentation. So standard full symphony orchestra.
That's great, man. That's beautiful, beautiful. You need no mute?
I think I didn't write for mute.
No,
Did I?
it's no mute.
No mute.
It's no mute.
No.
You don't need a mute. You don't need, I don't know, a piccolo trumpet or anything. Just a B flat horn.
I think the second flute doubles on piccolo, but that's about it.
Oh, we don't have English horn, no?
I don't think I. No, I don't. No, we don't.
Or
know.
contrabassoon.
No contrabassoon, that's for sure.
I like that name.
Yeah,
Contrabassoon.
contrabassoon. Yeah. Which is a great instrument, but we try to make it, have it compatible with also every orchestra that might not have a contrabassoon.
In Spanish, we call that fagot.
Fagot. In German is fagot as well.
Fagot?
The regular bassoon. Fagot.
Oh, yeah? Okay, and then it's a contrafagot.
The same in German.
In German,
Yeah.
contrafagot?
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
That it was
This is
questions?
Do we have any other questions? I'm just
Go
looking
ahead.
real quick.
Go ahead.
Any questions?
Let us know if you have questions. We're glad to answering. I think we have like a couple of minutes left.
A couple of minutes left, yes.
Yeah.
But before we wrap, I would like to, one more time, man, to really thank you so much for your presence over here today and all the things we learned
It
from
was
you, man.
such a pleasure to talk to you about this.
Because it's impressive what you have been doing in these 20 years you living in the U.S. as a foreigner, the guy who came from Europe, and you break all the grounds over here, you break all the ice.
And it was not easy.
And never easy. A deep and important things, they're never easy.
Yeah.
But easy things, they don't have the same reward. They don't have the same
That is
feeling.
true.
In the end, you know, when you really reach something that you know that you've been struggling and you've been working so hard to reach that thing.
Yeah.
In the end, man, that was hard, but finally, you know what I mean? And that thing lasts forever.
Yeah.
But now your name, your contribution to the beautiful art form that music is in this country is here forever.
Yeah.
And everybody gonna appreciate that, and everybody respect your name anywhere, not only here in town, anywhere. You mention CHRIS Walden, say, oh yeah. that guy is a serious composer and serious orchestrator. Man, and that gonna last until the last day of you use your pens or your whatever you use.
Yeah.
And yeah, you say the finale. Yeah.
Finale, yeah.
Finale is a way too difficult for the Cuban guy, and not even try, never.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you say it, it sounds so big and impressive. I feel like really humbled. I'm gonna go home and work really hard at it to do this justice and to.
And what about when you think you're gonna start writing a trumpet concerto?
Tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you. God bless you, man. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the great Chris Walden. Listen to his music, buy his record, and we all have a lot of things to learn from him and his talent that God gave it to you.
Thank you.
And we also thank the Arturo Sandoval Institute for presenting this.
Oh yes, ASI. We call ASI, ASI, Arturo Sandoval Institute. It's a non-profit organization here in the city of Los Angeles that we're trying to really help people, and especially youngers with a family of low income, and providing instrument and lessons and scholarship and opportunities, to develop their skill as a
fantastic
musician.
cause, and I'm glad to be a supporter of it.
Absolutely, and you're part of the board.
Yeah.
Thank you one more time, Chris. Thank you,
such an honor.
Dustin Higgin, and thank you, Tim Lamarca, for your help. And we see you next month. I don't know yet we're gonna have, but for sure it's gonna be somebody you're gonna enjoy. Thank you so much. God bless, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Please check out our YouTube page, because this video will be up along with all the other interviews we've done so far, and you can watch and share them with all your musician friends and students, so please do so at the Arturo Sandoval Institute YouTube channel.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.